Ford has dropped some news when it comes to the 2025, I do believe, or 2026 model year Ford Mustang. They are pumping up the prices for this. But what exactly are you getting for this increase in price? I'm not sure. So what we're going to do in this video is have a look at these news, what's going on with the Ford Mustang and why they are bumping up the prices, if we can get an explanation for that. And then I'm going to let you know which one I would personally buy. Would I buy the new Ford Mustang, or would I buy a used Challenger and save myself a lot of money at the same time, or probably around the same if I want to get a Hellcat or something like that. So we're going to compare those two models from front, side, and rear, and of course also the interior, which is going to be the biggest change for the Challenger with an outdated interior. But before we jump in Photoshop here, let's check out this article from Car Scoops about this Ford situation. Ford jacks up 2025 Mustang prices despite minimal changes. And why is this happening? So 2 new colors have been added to the 2025 Mustang, but 4 color options from the 2024 were also ditched. One of my favorite colors, by the way, the silver one, is no longer. I do think they probably have some other silver, but I really like the one that we have for 2024. So the entry-level Mustang EcoBoost is the only one that hasn't been hit with a price rise. V8-powered versions of the pony car has jumped by between $2,700 up to $3,745 for the 2025 model year. And just like 2024, the Ford Mustang family starts at $31,950, excluding a $1,500 destination fee for the 2025 Mustang EcoBoost. And then you have the EcoBoost convertible. Will need to part ways with $40,120, which is just a small $100 increase from last year. Seems, you know, not substantial at all. Like $100, what change does that make? But I guess on a grand scale, it does make a change for the company. Additionally, prices of the EcoBoost Premium Fastback and the EcoBoost Premium Convertible have each been jacked up by $100 to $37,545 and $43,000 for the convertible, respectively, $43,045. Now, the biggest price hikes here comes, of course, for the V8 models. So the V8 powered models have been hit with much heftier hikes. For example, the base Mustang GT Fastback now starts at $45,560, which is $2,700 more than last year. And prices for the GT Premium Fastback and GT Premium Convertible models have risen by $2,700 as well, and now starts at $50,080. Then we go to the Dark Horse here. The Dark Horse and the Dark Horse Premium get even bigger price increases at $2,745, so $45 more increase than a regular GT, and $3,745. And here you can see this table here of all the price increases for all these models. The only one that is not affected by the price hikes for 2026 is going to be the EcoBoost Fastback, which is the base, the most is the rental Mustang, the base Mustang. That is the one that is not affected by this. And the reason why I think this is happening, before we jump in here and have a look at what you actually get for your extra cash for 2025, is I think V8 muscle cars and with old school technology when it comes to the drivetrain, I do think we are going to see those type of cars, vehicles, have these type of price increases. The reason being, I do think it has a lot to do with behind the scenes regulations and stuff like that. That means that car companies, in order to make money on these type of vehicles these days, hopefully it changes in the future, but right now I do think they need to bump up the prices a little bit, and that is the main reason why I think this is happening. To specifically, as you can see, the regular inline 4 EcoBoost, which is a pretty fuel, a green engine, if you want to call it that is not affected by this. But these V8 models, those get big price increases up to $3,745. So what do you get for this extra money here that you're paying in 2025? You get dual zone climate control now comes standard on all models. Great. That is something that I would take for granted pretty much for a Ford Mustang. They also added 2 new colors, dubbed Wimbledon White and Molten Magenta, but in the process, they've ditched 4 colors, including Atlas Blue Metallic Rapid Red, which is also a very cool tinted clear coat color. Yellow Splash is no longer the metallic color, and then you have the Dark Matter Gray. That is the one that I like, not the silver one, but the Dark Matter Gray just looked really cool on the Mustang. So that is no more for 2025. 2025 Mustang can also order it with the 60th anniversary package right now, and I do think that is probably something that Ford just decided to throw in there into the lineup in order to make these price changes justified a bit more, just to throw in a 60th anniversary package. And this model celebrates the muscle car's major milestone and is offered in Wimbledon white, race red, vapor blue, or Brittany blue. So a digital gauge cluster with gauges inspired from the Mustang SVT Cobra built between 1999 and 2001 has also been added. So you have some new software features. I personally, since we have a fully digital gauge cluster, I really like the Fox body gauge cluster that you can get with the new Mustangs. I think it looks really, really cool. Even though the integration, we're going to have a look at that in a minute. You have two different integrations of the gauge and infotainment screen in the new Mustang. One with these two separate screens that looks so weird with the interior. The least integrated screens I've ever seen in a car is the Mustang with the dual separated screens, or you can have it with one single screen, which looks at least a little bit better than the two separate screens that we have. So with that said, let's jump into Photoshop here, and I'm going to let you know which one of these I would buy. I'm going to say it right now. I'm going to go for the Challenger. There's no question about it. I think that the Dodge Challenger is going to go down as a legend in the automotive history. It came out in 2007. They ended production last year. There's not a lot of cars that's been, and they also outsold the Mustang and the Camaro in 2023, I do believe. At least in 2022, when this had been out in the market for over a decade, which is insane to think about. That is how much demand there was for the Challenger. And the facelift that they made in 2015, I do believe, when they put in they refreshed the interior and also put the LEDs in the front and the rear. That to me, the thing is about the Challenger, if Dodge were to keep this in production for another 5 years and just took the Charger Daytona interior and applied that into almost the same body as the Challenger that we all know and love, I think this would still sell like crazy with the same body if we just refreshed a little bit of the interior, even though personally I loved this interior and I would not want to have screens instead of what we had here for the 2024 model here of the Challenger. So here we have the Mustang Dark Horse, and we also have, I do believe this is a Hellcat right here. Wide body, of course, you want to have the wide body for the Challenger. So looking at the Mustang here, I like what Mustang did here because the facelifted of the S550 Mustang starting to look more like a sports car. Here we go back to this muscle car design, meaning that we do have a lot of horizontal lines in the front end. And I made a redesign of the Mustang before this came out, making it more muscle car-y by having more horizontal vertical lines in the front end. And I do think this looks very, very cool. I also like the black graphic that we have here for the Dark Horse specifically. And the hood looks very static. You have a static shoulder line here dipping down a little bit into the hood. And we also have some black graphics for the Dark Horse up top of the hood as well. There are a couple of changes I would like to do here. I don't like how this plastic piece sticking out here and intruding into the bodywork outside of its limitations. It should only be limited to this area here. I would also like to have this lower section be even more horizontal than what we have here to, again, just emphasize the muscle car look that we have, or pony car look for the Mustang. Looking at the Challenger, though, this is the best retro-inspired design I have ever seen. That is the Challenger. This looks like a modernized 70s muscle car Challenger, and I think, as I said, if we were to just update the interior of this car, it would still sell like crazy even to this day, because I love everything about this design. You can see all the horizontal lines that we have here, and this is what I'm talking about when it comes to muscle cars. Horizontal and vertical lines, that is what we want. We also almost have this fuselage design that we're used to seeing in the side here, dipping inwards at the bottom. We don't have any, a rocker panel that sticks out here. That would not be muscle car-y to me. That's more of a JDM styling or Italian performance cars. But when you have muscle cars, you want to keep it very simple. And then they added the wide body kit. I'm not sure exactly when this came out, maybe 2021 or something like that, with a wide body in addition to the facelifted version. You can see we have LEDs in the front end, the hood scoop up top. Everything about this car is just spot on when it comes to the design. And I love this color as well. I would pick this in either this color or a just completely blacked out. There is my neighbor down the street has a blacked out Challenger with a wide body kit, and it just looks so good. When you see it at night with those lights at the rear end, it just looks menacing. Plantedness with a wide body. Just a fantastic design. I mean, again, I think it's going to go down as one of the greatest Dodge models of all time because factually it is. Now, looking at the Mustang here in the side view, we have, again, a little bit too sporty. It's a little too sporty for me. I want to have more straight lines in this, but it kind of reminds me of the 67 Fastback, which is definitely not a bad thing at all. The most beautiful Mustang of all time. I've made a review in person of that and I fell in love with it. It's just the attention to detail in old 60s models with all the little chrome features, the framing for the tri LED taillights, for example, and the chrome features going around the side mirrors. We don't have those details in today's cars. It looks mass produced. I mean, that is what you want. That is what you need to do in today's car market, unfortunately. But that is also why, as the older I get, the more I appreciate older cars, because it looked like the manufacturers actually made them pieces of art. Every single detail on the car is a small little piece of art, and that is why I love older cars compared to modern cars like this. But it still has a very clean, Mustang fastback design here. The wheels have always looked too small for me on the new Mustang. I don't know why. They don't fill out the wheelhouses properly. We have too big of a gap here. Definitely want to lower this an inch or so to make it properly planted on the ground. That is something that from the first time I saw the Mustang, I thought the wheels looked too small. Now, looking at the side view of the Challenger here, straight shoulder line here, and if you look at the original Challenger, this has the exact same styling like that as that one. I like this big chamfer that we have going on here as well through the entire side of the car. This chamfer going, and then it slowly dips up right over the rear axle, creating a very muscle car feel. The greenhouse also has this boxy design to it, which is exactly what you want in a muscle car. Thick C-pillar here as well. The visibility, the blind spot is pretty huge on this. It's not as bad as in the previous Camaro, but it's still not the best. I don't care because it's supposed to look like that for a muscle car. And again, these wide fenders just looking beautiful. The wheels fit better than they do on the Mustang, I think. For some reason, I'm not sure why. They look like to be almost the exact same size. But proportionally, I just think the wheels fit better on the Challenger. So beautiful design there. Looking at the rear end, this is something that I wanted to change when I first saw the Mustang, to just have these taillights stick down a little bit further. They look a little too small, so I want to have them go down sort of to this area right here and have them stretch down further just a little bit to make them, because they're such an important piece of the history of Mustangs, so I want to have them be a little bigger and take up more real estate in the rear end. But other than that, it's a beautiful looking design. It's not as muscle car-y as the front end design. Again, I would like to see a lot more boxiness back here, but we do have huge bazooka tailpipes in the lower section, as you can see, for the Dark Horse quad exhaust pipes, and it sounds so good. I'm so glad that Ford did not ditch the V8 for the new Mustang and kept it in production, in addition to offering it with a manual transmission. That combination is what I think is bumping the prices up, because those cars are so rare these days, specifically in a new car, to have a V8 manual sports car, that I think they just need to bump up the prices in order to make it work financially. So looking at the Challenger here, these taillights, beautiful. You can see just how simplistic everything is. I mean, we're all used to seeing these taillights several times. When you go outside, you're definitely gonna see at least one Challenger out on the road, and that is not a bad thing at all, because I appreciate seeing them every single time, even to this day, after almost 20 years since they went into production. 18 years. It's insane to think about, but that is how good of a design this is. Simple diffuser at the bottom as well, with these squared off tailpipes. Now, looking at the interior here, this is thankfully the single screen for the Mustang, which is something that I would need to go with. I couldn't live with a separated screen. It would just annoy me so much when I was sitting in the car that I could not live with something like that on a day-to-day basis. The integration there looks extremely lazy from Ford designers. This looks a little bit better, even though, yes, I would 100% want to see a housing here and a better integration of the infotainment screen. You know the drill. We talked so much about this before, but this is all overshadowed by the fact that Ford is still offering a manual transmission, which is a huge, huge deal for me in 2025 to be able to buy a brand new V8 sports car or muscle car, pony car with a manual transmission. That is to me something that I am actually willing to pay a premium for because they are so rare. Thankfully, we do have a couple of buttons down here, but the climate control settings looks to be integrated now completely into the infotainment screen. Steering wheel looks good, flat bottom here, looking nice. Now, this is something that a lot of people thought that this looks way too outdated for a 2024 model year. Personally, I don't mind it one bit. I think this is refreshing to see a design like this because we have all the climate settings down here perfectly separated from the infotainment screen. A very small infotainment screen. I don't need a bigger screen than this at all. This is perfectly fine for me. And look at the framing of all this. The gauge cluster, and you have a nice silver framing going around here. The styling itself with all these curvatures and radiuses, this is what makes it feel dated. And also, of course, the analog tachometer and speedometer. But again, personally, I don't care about having analog gauge clusters. I've said it before, but I think it actually feels more luxurious, more upscale to have physical stuff like we have right here instead of just splashing pixels all over the interior. The steering wheel looks fine as well, and everything else in here feels like it, in my opinion, it could be in production for another 5 years. But in order to be competitive, this is probably the one area where Dodge, if they were to keep this Challenger into production, they probably would have needed to update the interior, and I don't think that was worth it for Dodge. And also probably the underpinnings of the Challenger were starting to get so old that regulation was catching up, so they didn't want to invest too much money into refreshing an old model like this, which is a shame because now we only have the Charger Daytona with the Hurricane Inline 6, which is an Inline 6 is just never going to be the same as a big V8 like we had in the old Challenger, and that is the reason why in this case I would have 100% go for a used, slightly used Dodge Challenger over the new Mustang.